Bridgerton 3 Part 1 built up quite some tension with the spicy carriage scene closing off the show and Colin proposing immediately. But there are even more crazy events waiting to happen in Part 2, and most importantly, more steamy scenes, as the first look at it is insane. Part 1 of Bridgerton 3 was filled with many happenings at once, which viewers could easily miss if they blink too fast. The Featherington sisters played epic comedy with Philippa learning how to properly go to bed with her husband.
When he inserts himself.
Inserts himself? Inserts himself where?
And the exciting way she tries to compete with Prudence for the family fortune by making efforts to produce an heir with their supportive husbands. Kate and Anthony also welcomed us into their newly married life as their passion for each other continued to rise even with the new roles and responsibilities that came upon them. Still, they became absent throughout the rest of the show. However, they are expected to return from their extended honeymoon in Part 2 to keep their story going. The show's main stars got their happy ending in Part 1, with Colin finally accepting that he was in love with Pen and connecting physically with her in a moment that left us thirsty for more. Like Penelope, Francesca also found love with John Sterling, the Earl of Kilmartin, and if you wonder if the season can get any better than what you've already seen, then you are at the right place to find out more about the next part. Although there were many happy moments in Bridgerton 3 Part 1, some heartbreaking ones also happened. From the earlier scenes in the season, we could see through the pains Eloise and Penelope feel over their failed friendship. From previous seasons, these two have always been one of the best duos in the show, and things have never been the same for them after they fell out at the end of season 2. Many times in the first part, Eloise and Pen could barely avoid each other, from when Eloise walked off with Cressida to Pen's surprise. Then, Cressida tore Pen's gown at the first ball, and Eloise was sorrowful that it happened. Consequently, these two kept meeting when Pen tried to escape the Bridgerton house after having her lesson with Colin, and later when she wrote about herself in Lady Whistledown's column. Also, Eloise couldn't bring herself to tell anyone Pen's secret, even though it was a big betrayal for her. One thing was undeniable throughout these encounters, although it might be difficult for them to admit. Eloise and Pen still care much for each other. Even though Eloise has found a new friendship with Cressida and Pen is finally going to start courting Colin, their reconciliation is still something to be looked forward to. So, in the second part of Bridgerton 3, Eloise and Pen will see even more of each other, especially when Colin and Pen announce their engagement to the rest of the ton. You can already tell Eloise will be mad over that situation, as she warned Pen in the teaser video to reveal her secret to Colin or she would have to do it herself. While this could further pull them apart as friends, when all is done and settled, Eloise and Pen are expected to form an understanding of how to move forward, as they have the next 4 episodes to do this. The showrunner, Jess Brownell, teased the possible ways Pen and Eloise's rift could turn out when she said their friendship is the second love story of the season. Then she added that the show is invested in happy endings, which hints that we might see our favorite duos back together at the end of season 3. Speaking of Pen's secret that started the whole issue, it will continue to be what causes many indifferences waiting to happen in part 2 until it's all sorted out. And that means Colin finding out is another chaos waiting to explode. With the timeline changing from what happened in the books, Colin could find out about Lady Whistledown before or after their marriage. However, one thing is sure, Pen's secret will be exposed to Colin one way or the other, and we've explained the many possible ways things could turn out when she gets exposed in our other video. Many fans, especially book lovers, may already know Bridgerton would never disappoint by making Colin and Pen the end game. Still, his reaction to finding out Pen is Lady Whistledown might be terrifying. He already displayed how crazy his response could be when he promised Eloise he would ruin Whistledown if he ever found out the person behind her. Such a threat should never be taken lightly, because it would be even worse knowing it had been Penelope all along. He's still furious over what she wrote about Marina in season 1 and Eloise in season 2. To make it crazier, she wrote about him again in season 3, and such disappointment would be hard to get over coming from someone he cares for deeply. So part 2 won't be entirely rosy for Penelope. Luckily enough, even though Lady Whistledown will almost destroy the blossoming romance between Colin and Pen, One thing we can count on is more steamy scenes in the second part. According to Nicola Coughlan, who plays Penn, part 2 isn't just going to be spicy, but very revealing and well detailed too when it comes to their bed scenes. She said, "There is one where I am very undressed on camera, and that was my idea, my choice. It just felt like the biggest FU to all the conversations surrounding my body. It was amazingly empowering. Having now watched those scenes, I'm so proud of them." She said the fans have seen nothing compared to what's coming in part 2 with their romantic moments together, which includes the mirror scene. This moment has been teased in the official Bridgerton 3 trailer, and the cast hinted that it could be more than what played out in the book. In the book, the language used is very spicy, as Colin describes what he will do to her in front of a mirror, which they never did. The text from the book reads, "I want to see you sitting up so I can see them full and lovely and large, and then I want to crawl behind you and cup you." But the show might play out that scene for real while they face the mirror, and it seems most of the scenes in part 2 might end up being Penn and Colin all over each other. However, other lovers might get into it in part 2, as 2 engagements and weddings might occur involving the other promising lovers in the show, Francesca and John Sterling. These two have one of the cutest love encounters in the Bridgerton franchise, as their chemistry is too silent, yet very loud and obvious to anyone. According to the books and plot of Bridgerton, season 3 might be setting Francesca up for her season and making her get engaged in the second part. But Bridgerton might not want to conduct 2 weddings, as only one might be shown while the other would be narrated. Like in season 2, fans never got to see Kate and Anthony's wedding despite being the main couple, and that could also be the fate of Poland or Francesca and John. As usual, Benedict continued his playboy act into season 3 by befriending Lady Tilly. Unlike his other casual encounters with women in previous seasons, Benedict seems fascinated by Lady Tilly. He even takes flowers to see her, and although Lady Tilly isn't the person Benedict would end up with, they could get into a situation where Benedict starts developing feelings for her, and she will let him know that should never happen. So, these circumstances could lead Benedict to find his genuine love interest, Sophie, at the end of season 3, but then that depends on whether his story comes next in season 4, and viewers wouldn't know until they've seen part 2. The Bridgerton show has scattered the order in which the siblings find love in the show, as Benedict's season was supposed to come before Colin's. The showrunner said they might continue changing the book's order and how the stories play out on TV. She added that they want Benedict to have more adventures before finally realizing he's done enough and is ready to settle down, which means his season might not be next. But she also mentioned that the hint is in part 2, which will answer whether Benedict is the next Bridgerton who would be getting married. Lady Violet Bridgerton was also not left out of the discussion of romance in Bridgerton Part 1 after meeting Lady Danbury's brother, Lord Marcus. Lady Danbury already exposed that Marcus is a rake, which means a player, and Violet also mentioned in Queen Charlotte that her garden is blooming out of control.
Your garden is in bloom. It is blooming out of control. Oh, Violet.
And the gardener coming to the rescue is probably Marcus, which Lady Danbury won't be happy with. Remember that Lady Danbury also had a secret relationship with Violet's father in Queen Charlotte, and part 2 might be the time for Violet's payback. Also, more reasons why Lady Danbury doesn't like to have her brother around will all be exposed too. While everyone is finding a gardener for their gardens, fans should remember the precious Lord Debling, who is still keen on taking a wife this season. Since Penelope is out of the option, the gentleman would need a lady to tend to his estate while he's away. And Cressida no longer has to compete with Penn for him, so there may be some luck for them both to come together in part 2. After all, it would be a decent deal, as it would allow Cressida's dad to let her be, and Lord Debling would get a wife. The Featherington sisters are still competing to produce the heir, and while at it, things could go wrong for the family if the mother's forged document is exposed. In the document, it was arranged that the fortune would stay in their family once any of the daughters produced an heir, and Lady Featherington is desperately trying to make that happen before things go wrong. And part 2 is going to build up more on this. Hopefully, the Featheringtons will enjoy their fortune for much longer.